really exciting for me is seeing two things. One is the speed of development that's actually happening, getting product to market that business people will use, key. And the second thing is, and I don't think we do enough of this ourselves in Northern Ireland, I work across the globe, and I haven't seen development like that in some time. I see other companies trying to do the same thing. It's exciting to see that someone in Northern Ireland is actually leading at the front of this technology. I want to introduce you to someone else, a friend of mine, Marie. If you're talking about someone who's at the cutting edge in the front of technology, this is a lady who excels at that. We're used to talking about ChatGPT 3.5. Well, this is a lady, an innovator, the CEO of Emotionalize, a company that's turning emotional intelligence or helping turn AI into an emotionally intelligent option. Marie appears on RTE, she appears on radio all the time, appears internationally. The last one was a speech in Mauritius. If you want to hear someone who has been at the cutting edge of this since version 2 of ChatGPT, then please raise your hands for Marie, who'll walk you through emotional AI.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Kieran. And first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank Kieran and Conla McCann particularly, and Mortine O'Malore for all of your hospitality, particularly last night. So thank you very much. So my name is Marie Toft. I'm the CEO and founder of Emotionalize AI. And I'm here today to talk to you about how to make AI human more rather than human less. And it's in two areas I'd really like to look at. So the first one is how to build AI that is more human. But the second one, as we roll our model out, is how to encourage adoption of AI in a human-centered way. So I've so enjoyed all of the talks here this morning, and I'm conscious I'm in front of an audience, an incredibly literate, AI literate audience and technical audience. And some of the breakthroughs, even just what we heard there from Dallin and Will, have been extraordinary, and it is amazing to see it. So, but what I think we need to remember is everything that everyone is developing here is going to be used by people. And how do we encourage them and take them by the hand and lead them to embrace this technology and to actually be part of it? Because there's a big gap there. AI is a paradigm shift. You know, we're used to plug and play. We've never developed a technology that has the potential to be more intelligent than us. So for the first time ever, humans and AI are actually evolving together. And this is something we have to be really conscious of. So to tell you a little bit more about how I ended up becoming the CEO of a Gen AI company, my background is actually in journalism and TV. And in fact, I started my broadcasting career here in Belfast with BBC Northern Ireland back in the 1990s. And I've worked for SBS Australia and RTE and several other broadcasters. So in 2008, I was working as a TV producer and I was on maternity leave. And I was at home with two small children and under 2. And for anyone who's taken paternity or maternity leave, you can feel quite vulnerable. It can sometimes lead to a little bit of lack of confidence. And I received an email from HR that to say it wasn't emotionally intelligent was really putting it quite mildly. And that HR sparked a journey that saw me leave journalism and broadcasting and return to university to study psychotherapy. So I'm a trained psychotherapist. And then I decided in 2020 to train AI to be emotionally intelligent. Lots of people said I was brave. I've discovered brave is actually a word for people to say, you're absolutely crazy. And so OpenAI had released GPT-3 in 2020, in June of 2020, and I had seen it. And I realized I could now do this. For the first time ever, I could actually access the data that would allow me to do this. So this is what we do. Only 36% of us are emotionally intelligent. Every time I say that, everybody looks around and thinks, oh my God, am I one of those people? And it's quite a shocking statistic, actually. But it's a very, very important part of the way we communicate. Particularly, we've discovered as we develop our model for customer support and employee engagement, when you don't exhibit emotional intelligence, these are all the things that happen. And we're all customers, and we have been employees at various stages, so we know what it means when we don't feel valued. So this is what we do with our solution. We're a cognitive collaborator. We're always on, and I'll show you what this means now. We're getting real traction in customer support, particularly because customer support at the moment is completely reliant on good recruitment and training to make customers feel valued, and sometimes that will let you down, whereas you'll see our model can come in and help de-risk that situation. So this is what we do. This is our model. We call our model Emer, the Irish girl's name, because the first 3 letters stand for Emotionally Intelligent Model. So we've built an app in Outlook. So it's working in Outlook. It's also working in Gmail and LinkedIn. We can build apps in Slack, Teams. And so you can see the email here. And what Emer has done, and this is really important, we've trained Emer to recognize what is good emotional intelligence and what isn't. So Emer has said that the second sentence in that email has good emotional intelligence. It doesn't need any help. But the first sentence does. And unlike ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, it actually gives you the reason why. So you're actually getting training on the ground. We've rolled this out as an employee engagement tool to a medical device company in Cork, where we're based, and they've actually said they believe this type of feedback is helping them to become more emotionally intelligent, because it's actually giving you the reason for why that first sentence may not work. And then once you press emotionalized sentence, it will give you a more emotionally intelligent replacement sentence. So this is what we've built. This is literally just the beginning. We're using Agentic AI. We've been using Agentic AI since January of 24. We have trained an AI agent to read an email thread and understand the context and the emotional temperature of that thread. We've trained another AI agent to automatically populate an emotionally intelligent response. So we have democratized what I would regard as the power skill of emotional intelligence. So look, I'm conscious of my audience. I don't need to tell any of you how huge AI is. This is a quote from Bill Gates. AI is not a technological shift. It's an economic imperative. The organizations that don't get on board will be left behind. It's not hyped, as we hear today. It's literally just getting started. I compare AI to electricity. There isn't an aspect of our lives that it is not going to touch. But as an AI founder and innovator, I also work as a generative AI consultant in helping companies roll out AI, because there is a huge gap for where AI is and where the rest of society is. And as we've seen just today, how quickly it's advancing, but society is remarkably behind in what's about to happen. Just this week, the UN released a report saying 40% of global jobs could be impacted by the growth of AI over the next 10 years, 40%. Now, these 4 areas are what they're saying, and these are the 4 areas that these jobs can be impacted. It could replace human work. It's already doing that. It can complement human work. It will deepen automation, and of course, it will create new jobs. We're still not clear exactly what the scale of all of this is, how much will be replaced, how much will be complemented. Back to Bill Gates again, with new technologies, we always overestimate the next 2 years, and we underestimate the next 10 years. So no one is really able to tell us yet exactly what the impact will be. The World Economic Forum released a report in January saying 60% of the global workforce need to be upskilled in the next 5 years. And of course, then we have in EU countries, the EU AI Act. What's really interesting is the EU AI Act has been in force since February. And back to what Ryan was saying in his opening address, and AI literacy. If anyone is using AI models or your employees are using AI models, you are now bound by the EU AI Act to support literacy and upskilling and training of the people using those models. And what's really interesting, we have American clients, and it's not even just about the legislation. You know, it's actually what I really find kind of heartwarming about AI and where it's going is people aren't necessarily thinking, I have to do this or I'm going against the law. It's actually people are genuinely talking about ethics. They're talking about data privacy. They're talking about security. These aren't just legal imperatives. They are actual business imperatives as well. So that's a really important point. But this UN piece also says we need to move our focus from the technology to people. And that's what I'm really concentrating on here today. Now, this is a statistic and a lot of people aren't familiar with, but 70 to 85% of generative AI projects are failing. And I think that's a really, really important thing to remember. And why is that? So these are just some of the reasons that we believe why they're failing. So overestimated business value. I think for a while we've all been very captivated by large language models, and it's like magic. And I think people are standing back now and going, where is the return on investment? Where is the value? And you can see the companies emerging that are offering that value. We all know about data challenges, really big security and privacy concerns. There's a lot of companies are very nervous about AI, mainly because of security and privacy concerns. But it's really dangerous to ignore it because what's happening in so many organizations, very similar to the way the internet happened in the 1990s, is of course it's being led by the ground up. So employees are using ChatGPT on the sly and putting sometimes sensitive data into it in order to get ahead. So if companies don't actually sort this out, you've got a shadow world of AI within an organization, which is not something you really want to have. The operational costs at the moment, AI isn't cheap, but it is coming down significantly. I think this is important, the strategic vision. AI should be there to solve your business problems. What is the most fundamental business challenge that you're having? And could AI be part of that solution? That's the way AI should be approached. But one of the biggest reasons AI is failing is organizational resistance. And I think this is something we're not giving enough attention to. We're so enchanted by the technology, we forget that it's people have to adopt it and it's people have to use it. So will trust be the limit of our AI ambition? If we don't educate people about AI and we don't communicate it to them, well, what is the casualty? The casualty is trust. And so these are just some tips that I've put together in terms of how to implement a good AI strategy and how to bring your people with you. So first of all, for every pound that is being invested in your AI, the same amount should be invested in your people and how they're actually going to adopt it. You need to align the benefits. What's happening, I find, in a lot of organizations is legal and IT are getting very excited and they're going into silos and they're creating AI and the rest of the company isn't part of that. So you need to align your benefits to both the business but also to your people. Psychological safety, as a psychotherapist, this is really, really important to me particularly. You have to encourage people to experiment. You have to encourage, and you have to be okay when they get it wrong. By the way, AI is still getting things wrong. Anyone who's using AI, it's still not 100% accurate. And I would argue, and I'll say, we'll talk about this in a second, should it ever be? Define KPIs and success metrics. You know, AI is expensive. You decide to buy a tool or you decide to develop a tool. What is it going to do and how is it going to add value? One of the things I see all the time, especially as we roll EMER out to models, is, you know, people kind of go, sure, knock yourself out with that. They don't communicate to their teams why this model is important. We're all being asked to do more with less. We're all tired. And then a new technology comes along and we're told, why am I using this? You have to communicate to people what the benefits are and create advocacy and create excitement around it. Track people's engagement and adoption. It's very important. I've discovered this. Rolling out new technology is not an easy thing to do. You know, people are used to doing things certain ways and it takes a while to get to terms with this technology. There has to be rewards and incentives for that. Feedback loops are huge, and listen to the stories behind the statistics. Listen to why people may not like it. As a journalist, you know, the media, obviously, quite often, and I've done this myself, if it bleeds, it leads. There's a lot of fear about AI in the mainstream press. There's a lot of ideas that, are the robots going to take over the world, and this kind of dystopian idea, and will it take my job? Those fears need to be addressed within your organization. You need to have a collaborative approach to doing all of this. Reassess regularly and celebrate progress and outcomes. When you roll out an AI strategy, be very clear about why you're doing it, but also incentivize it, reward it, listen to the stories behind it. Your people approach is just as important as your technological approach. So I've talked a little bit about the technology we developed, and I've talked a little bit about the people and how your approach in rolling out AI is very important. But just to come back to the humanity of AI, and listening to Will and Dallin there was really interesting, the whereby you had to teach Cleo and Clay to understand this is a conversation. And, you know, you can't say to someone in front of you, stop talking now, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And so what we're all doing, and what we've done with Emer, is you're creating AI to be human more rather than human less. And if we are going to adopt this technology, we have to do that. So already, just in the last few weeks, I'm sure all of you, I don't have to educate any of you on the Turing test and Alan Turing and the test for whether machine imitates human beings or not. But the Turing test was run on GPT 4.5 and it passed with flying colours according to the stats, but it only passed when when a persona was created. And I thought this was really interesting. The persona that they created was a young, educated person on AI. And the reason a lot of the people thought that this AI was actually, you know, a lot of them thought, even for the humans, they thought the AI was more human, was because it made a few mistakes. There were typos, it hedged bets, it was a little bit hesitant. So it was the humanity made people believe that the AI was human. They built it in. And again, just in the last few months, this is really interesting. One of the barriers to verticals like finance or law or medicine adopting AI is they don't know when it gets it wrong. AI is trained to give you an answer no matter what, even if it's the wrong answer. And sometimes it can double down on the wrong answer. And when it comes to big decisions in finance, in law, or in medicine, that's a dangerous risk. So Johns Hopkins released research just this month where they have been training AI to actually hold its hands up and say, I'm not sure about that. That's a real breakthrough. Sometimes, actually, not having an answer is far better than the wrong answer. And certainly, we ourselves in Emotionize, when we created Emer, we spent quite a bit of time, you know, helping it to understand what is good emotional intelligence and what isn't. And it's that human approach that makes such a difference. We have to ask ourselves how we build AI and what's coming down the tracks for the next generation. And we all know, I mean, they're talking about existential threats in terms of education and the erosion of critical thinking. So, you know, do you need to think about something if you put it into ChatGPT and it does it for you? We need to look at how we build AI systems to encourage critical thinking, to provoke us, to challenge us. Otherwise, the AI will do it for us. And we'll see, we are, you know, programmed for the path of least resistance. I mean, I'm hearing shocking statistics about interns for a large software organization I was talking to a few weeks ago, where they're getting ChatGPT to create their CVs. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, by the way. I mean, I use ChatGPT every day. But what they're not even doing is reading over it. And you know, at the end when you use ChatGPT and it says, you know, are you happy with this? Can I do anything else? They're leaving that on the CVs and just sending it into the organization. So they're not even proofreading it. So this is actually happening right now. And we need to look at making sure people can, you know, continue to evaluate and critically think. So that whole point is, how do we build AI? How do we adopt AI? That's the humanity that I'm talking about. And a really good book that I would really recommend by Shannon Valor, a book called The AI Mirror. She's saying we now face quite a stark choice in how we build AI. She says we can use them to strengthen our human values, which obviously I'm very much in favour for. Or she said we can use them to disable human features, virtues, by treating them as unnecessary. And we are at an inflection point, and we do need to make these big decisions, and we need to ensure that our humanity is preserved within this brave new world of AI. So thank you very much. I'd like to end with one of the whole reasons I set up Emotionize AI, and it's a big hero of mine called Maya Angelou, who is a poet and a civil rights activist, and I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Thank you.